the key word in Camus' work is nuance, and so of course he said he was torn all his life long, and it started from an early age because he was born European in a French African colony. Later he was considered as an African in France. Then he was always too far right for the left wing, too far left for the right wing. He was too thug for intellectual circles, then too wealthy for his origin social class. And so he really was praising for nuance, and that has always been seen as cowardice. That's why most of the time there's no political translation to his way of thinking, because it's always in the middle of something, and that was his position during his whole lifetime. And so actually it's a continuous challenge. It's no cowardice. And there is an anecdote really hard. His daughter, Catherine, told us that a day he was like prostrated in the garden, and she said, "Dad, are you sad?" And he said, "No, I'm just alone." And that was a feeling that was in him all his life long. And he was particularly alone. And I think that in 2020, we have many ways of feeling lonely. And that's why Camus' books are giving tastes of life, but without lying. It's not lying to you, it's just giving you concretely what you are in charge of in your life. It's praise for responsibility, I think. And so that's what can attract young people in reading him.
What you're in charge of, what you can control, what you have to let go of. Let's listen to Albert Camus, who's asked about writing itself.
A writer works alone, is judged in solitude, and most of all, judges himself in solitude. It's neither good nor healthy, for even if he is of sound body and mind, a day will come where he needs a human face, a warmth, community.
You hear that, Brian Spencer? It's not good or healthy to be a writer.
There may be healthier professions, it's true. I think being a bookseller combines the active and contemplative lives perhaps more effectively than a writer's does. But I'd like to go back to one point earlier that was just alluded to, and that had to do with the contradictions that Camus felt as an Algerian and as a French person at the same time. Because I think a lot of people may not know the context then, and that was that leading up to the revolution, very few people living in Algeria were actually French citizens. It was a French department. It was part of France, like any other department. And yet the vast majority of citizens did not have French citizenship. The only way the French government would extend French citizenship to those Algerians was if they gave up their adherence to Salafic or Islamic law. And for most Algerians, natives, they considered that as a renouncement of their religion, which is something that they considered unacceptable. So what Camus was actually arguing for was the automatic naturalization of all those Algerians to French citizens. So, of course, he was in a bind because how can you say, yes, you are French, when you're not French, you don't have French citizenship? He's arguing that they should become French. The French government doesn't want to go along with that, and the Algerians who are part of the revolution won't accept that the ongoing status quo. So you can understand the absurd position he was in of loving both Algeria, wanting the best for his country and all of the people in the country, and at the same time his attachment to French culture and the very vibrant level of dynamic between the French and the Algerians in Algeria.